All right, so the next game we have to talk about, we have 4-4 Tennessee taking on 6-2 Kentucky. This game is going to be played on ESPN with a 7 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. Kentucky is a 1-point favorite in this game. Now, Kentucky last week, they lost to Mississippi State 31-17, and I watched this game. This was an ugly game if you're a Kentucky fan, man. Like, the offense was sloppy. Kentucky's secondary got absolutely shredded by Will Rogers. Will Rogers was 36-39 for 344 passing yards and 1 touchdown. The ball barely touched the ground. They pretty much were throwing on air. So I'm not going to criticize Kentucky's defense because Kentucky still does have one of the better defenses in the SEC and in college football. And it doesn't help the fact that they had to come on the field every 30 seconds right after they just got off the field because the offense kept turning over the football. Now, the run game also came out flat. Like, they only rushed for 66 rushing yards as a team. And that's probably because they had to throw to try to get their way back into the game. But overall, like, Kentucky hasn't really looked good as of late. And you know what people in the college football world say after somebody has like a devastating loss against Georgia or Alabama? It's kind of a hangover effect. They always try to say that you're never the same team after you lose to a Georgia or Alabama in the fashion that Kentucky did. And we know what Georgia did to Kentucky. They beat them, and they beat them bad to a pulp. And you kind of have to ask yourself, is there a hangover effect? Now, Tennessee, on the other hand, this Tennessee team is playing some really good football at a very good time. You may say, JT, how is Tennessee playing some really good football? Okay, didn't they lose to Alabama by a pretty big margin? Didn't they lose to Ole Miss? Well, yeah, if you look at the box score of the Alabama game, like, yeah, it's not going to look pretty, but if you actually watch that game, you will know that Tennessee was giving Alabama all they could handle at one point. That was a really competitive football game. As a matter of fact, I was looking at that game and I was like, oh wow, Tennessee is hanging with Alabama. Well, let me go ahead and watch this. So you got to understand the context. So don't come at me if you're a Kentucky fan and blast me in the comment section about the Alabama game, because Tennessee was pretty competitive against Alabama. Okay, you might want to go back and rewatch that game, and Tennessee was really competitive against Ole Miss. So Tennessee is playing some really good football. Meanwhile, Kentucky looks to be trending downward. So is Kentucky going to be able to win this game and get themselves back on track? Or is Tennessee going to get a big win over a ranked opponent and continue to have a good trajectory upwards? Because a win for Tennessee would be monumental for this program and Josh Heupel right now, because I really like what Tennessee has done. When Tennessee has faced, opponents that aren't powerhouses, they've been pretty good. So I like Tennessee, but at the same time, you do got to understand that Tennessee doesn't really have a defense. So if Tennessee's going to win this game, they pretty much have to outscore Kentucky, which I don't really know, because Kentucky is a team that likes to run the football. And when you have a team that likes to run the football, they're going to run the football until you prove you can stop it, which means that your offense isn't going to be on the field all that much because they're going to control time possession. And for Tennessee, I don't really know if that defense is going to be able to even get enough key stops to keep Kentucky from, scoring, because I think Kentucky can also score on every possession. I don't really know if Tennessee's offense is going to be able to score every possession on Kentucky's defense, and that's not taking anything away from Tennessee's offense. I'm just saying that the fact that you got to look at last week's performance, Kentucky's defense is really good. The reason why their defense wasn't great last week was because of all the turnovers that the offense had, so the defense had to come back on for more plays. But if the offense takes care of the football and there's no turnovers and they play a clean game, then I think that Tennessee's defense isn't really going to be able to stop Kentucky from scoring. And I also feel like Tennessee's offense is going to score some points in this game, but at the same time, I do feel like Kentucky's defense is more than able of being able to get some key stops and giving the ball back to their offense. Now, Hendon Hooker, right now, in my opinion, is the most underrated quarterback in the SEC, and nobody's talking about it. Everybody keeps talking about how bad the quarterback play has been this year in college football. Everybody's talking about, the SEC quarterbacks outside of Bryce Young and Matt Corral, how there's not really a lot of talent. Nobody's talking about Hendon Hooker. Everybody just seems to be overlooking Hendon Hooker. I haven't really seen him on nobody's top 5 QBs. I saw somebody who had Will Levis over Hendon Hooker. If you were to ask a Kentucky fan right now, who would they rather have at QB, Hendon Hooker or Will Levis? I'm pretty confident that a good amount of Kentucky fans would take Hendon Hooker over Will Levis, because Hendon Hooker has been amazing this year for Tennessee. He's thrown for 1,578 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, completing 68.7% of his passes. He has ran for 416 yards on the ground and has 4 rushing touchdowns. Like, Hendon Hooker has been severely, when I say severely, he's been severely overlooked, and he's been severely underrated this year. So I think he's going to have a really good game against Kentucky, win or lose. He's been really good this year. He was really good against Alabama. He was really good against Ole Miss. Like, Hendon Hooker has had a really good year for Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's defense, like I alluded to earlier, can they get off the field? Because they're not good when it comes to getting off the football field on third downs. As a matter of fact, they have one of the worst, if not the worst, third down defense in college football. They allow opposing teams to convert 48.76% of the time, which is 122nd in the nation right now. And Kentucky has one of the best third down offenses in college football. They're 18th in third down conversion percentage. They convert on third downs 47.50% of the time. And the reason for that is because Kentucky's a really good team when it comes to running the football, which means they win on their early downs. So most of the times they get a good amount of yardage on first and second downs, and on third downs they're pretty much in a third and short situation. So Kentucky most of the time is in like third and short, third and 3, third and 4. Maybe occasionally you're catching them in a third and 6 situation, which still gives them the ability when it comes to the flexibility when it comes to the play calling to either choose to run the football to pick up the first down to move the chains, or they can choose to throw the football to move the chains. So you have that unpredictability when it comes to third down with this Kentucky offense, because they're always in a position that they can hit you with anything. Play action. The playbook is fully open. Meanwhile, if you're Tennessee, you have to try to find a way to get Kentucky into obvious passing situations on third down. So you have to be able to win on first down. You have to be able to win on second down, and you have to be able to put Kentucky in the situations that say, hey man, we have to throw the ball if we want to be able to convert. So if you're Tennessee, you got to try to find ways to win on first and second downs, and the main catalyst for that is going to be your ability to stop the run game of Kentucky. Now, Tennessee is 69th in the nation in rushing yards per game allowed. They are allowing 160 rushing yards per game. Meanwhile, Kentucky, regardless of what the stats say, I think they're like 45th in America in rushing yards per game. Kentucky is one of the best running football teams that we have right now. So if you are Tennessee, I think it's really important that you're able to win on those early downs and attempt to get Kentucky into third and long situations where they have to throw the football to keep the drive alive on you. So another thing that I like about Tennessee is that this is a high tempo offense. This is an offense that gets going really fast. When this offense gets in rhythm, they get in rhythm. And on top of that, you got to look at the dual threat ability of Hendon Hooker. You got to be able to account for that. So that Kentucky defense is definitely going to have their hands full in this game. I'm going to take Tennessee with the upset. And the reason why is because I think that Tennessee could have a couple of plays that bounce their way. I do feel like they could come away with a turnover or two. And even though they're probably not going to have a lot of success getting off the field on third down and whatnot, I still feel like Tennessee is going to be able to get a couple of key turnovers in this game. And that's why I'm going to take Tennessee to win. And Tennessee has been playing some really good football, okay? Like, you can go back and look at the Alabama game and look at the scoreboard, but if you actually go back and watch that game, Tennessee was hanging around with Alabama. They were competing with Alabama. And I know you can't give participation trophies out there for, competing somewhat at some point in the game. You got to actually win the game. But you do have to give Tennessee a lot of props. Tennessee has looked like a really good football team, and they're trending in the upwards direction. Meanwhile, Kentucky is kind of trending in a downwards direction, and it's the reason why Kentucky is only a 1-point favorite in this game. It's not that I've just had some Tennessee bias. Like, Vegas probably feels the same way I feel about this game, because if Kentucky fans feel like their team is just outright better than Tennessee, then they should be a double-digit favorite in this game, but they're not for a reason. And Vegas probably sees the same thing I see with this Tennessee team. This Tennessee team is playing some really good football at the right time. I'm taking Tennessee with the upset.